Welcome to SPK Speak Sports. On our station, we talk about baseball and sports news, from the most recent stories to the throwbacks. Listen now to Scott, Paul, and Kelly on SPK Speak Sports as they hit the ball out of the park.
You hit the ball out of the park, Speak Sports.
Hello there. My name is Aristotle, but I'm known to my friends and the Witness Protection Program as Scott.
I'm Paul.
I'm Kelly.
And the three of us together, the once again trifecta, are SPK Speak Sports. Paul.
Announcement. According to our tech team, the analytics are informing us that we have more podcast listeners than we have YouTube viewers. But we do want you all to know that there's a way to communicate with SPK Speak Sports, and that's utilizing the comments feature on our YouTube channel. Again, that's SPK Speak Sports YouTube.
We have a tech team. I did not know that. Did not know that. Well, as far as the current stuff, I'd love to talk about 1919, and I will in a few minutes, and I'm sure it'll be scintillating. But as far as current stuff, I guess maybe the big thing was a couple of days ago, where it was on two different days actually. They honored Jackie Robinson. That's why he's up front here, in front of the replica of the scoreboard at Ebbets Field. Actually, this is the life-size Ebbets Field scoreboard. Ebbets Field is very tiny. That's why Duke Snyder hits so many home runs. Yeah. Oh, he's a monster. It's a mini field. But no, seriously, so they honored Jackie Robinson. Couldn't do it, obviously, on April 15th because of the Wuhan flu. But the other thing with Jackie Robinson Day, whenever they had that, everybody's wearing 42, no numbers, no letters on the backs of their uniforms. That's actually a day I'll bet that the scorecard, vendors make a bundle, because you literally can't tell who's who without a scorecard.
Exactly.
Except I don't know how you put everybody's 40. Anyway, I digress. Dodgers, surprisingly, still in first place. One thing I wanted to mention was I think there's the White Sox have a good chance to go. They're talking maybe because the baseball trading deadline is tomorrow, and we have had a few trades already of not major, but more than minor significance too. But Dennis Keuchel with the White Sox has kind of flown under the radar. He's got 5 wins. Yes. So he's right behind Bieber and Yu Darvish, who's another surprise. If they get, there was speculation that maybe the White Sox might get Mike Clevenger from the Indians today or tomorrow. Mm-hmm. But Mitch Moreland's gone to the Slam Diego Padres, so they got a little more muscle.
I don't like
there.
that.
And who else were we talking about?
Well, just one thing with the Clevenger thing is Cleveland. I don't know if they would trade him to Chicago. Do you think? And they're in the same division?
I don't know why they trade him at all this year. They're definitely in the hunt. Yeah. They're in first place now.
Right.
So, but the Angels let Tommy La Stella go, and I think that's good for the A's.
It's good for him.
And at first I thought, what are you doing? But the Angels don't have him under contract after this year. And,
no.
The way they're going, I don't think he'd want to come back.
Yeah.
So they got a young guy who has a lot of potential.
The stories that have shocked me are the ones floating Trevor Bowers' potential trade here before the deadline.
Really?
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't know why they'd want to get rid of him, but
well, he's playing out his option too, right? He's a free agent,
yeah,
and he's going to sign one. He said he was going to sign one-year deals.
Yeah,
and you've had
Yeah, as a high school player, and he left high school a year early, and he was playing at UCLA when he would have been a senior in high school, but he had nothing left to prove. And he really didn't.
Right.
But he's kind of his own guy, and he had the accident with the drone thing in the World Series 4 years ago. But he had his own workout regimen and everything, and I think he was initially with the Diamondbacks.
He's a character.
Thank you.
Yeah.
He's a colorful character.
Yeah.
And he had his own workout regimen, and I think finally, after he was traded, it's like, young guy, it's great, but we're paying you a lot of money. This isn't Hart High School in Newhall, California.
Right.
So we want you to be able to do what you want to do. We want to have some input too, because we're paying you.
Exactly.
So But I just hope the Angels don't trade Dylan Bundy because they need somebody to play off of for next year.
Right. They might trade Simmons, you know,
Yeah, that's possible.
and the
too.
catcher Castro.
Yeah.
So,
Anybody, or do you want to wrap up now? Just kidding.
Well, I think this week was maybe Ernie Banks' dream, but it's a modern nightmare. And Ernie Banks was famous for saying what? Let's play two. So doubleheaders were at the forefront this week with all the postponed games. And I was thinking about the detriments of doubleheaders. And first of all, it really fouls up pitching rotations.
Right.
You know, you don't get that extra day of rest. And, you know, now what are they doing? They're bringing guys up from the alternate site. And so it messes up pitching rotation. It cuts 2 games short. That's 4 innings fewer that they play. And how many runs could score in 4 innings? The Dodgers won a nightcap the other day, night bill, 2-0. And I'm thinking, well, you know, the relief staff could easily give up 2 runs in those last 2 innings. That won't be played, thank goodness. And even though the games are cut short, each of them, they're playing 14 innings in one day.
right.
So the fatigue is actually greater. Your starting catcher doesn't get to play both games because you know nobody's foolish enough
Right.
to go back to back, right?
Yeah.
But if it were 2 nines consecutive days, starting catcher's there. Relief pitchers aren't going to be available for both of the games, probably. I mean, if you go, you know, your middle relief guy is not going to be.
Yeah, because
able to
one
go
guy
out.
could throw 10 pitches. He's done for 2 days. He's got to have some rest. But you're right. Yeah.
And TV viewership suffers. So I don't know how this helped the game
It didn't.
one bit this week.
It didn't.
Well,
And
your one point about if it's a 1-0, 2-0, 4-2 game with 2 innings that should have been played, that's not a given. It's like last night, Angels are leading 16-2, and I turned it off after 8 innings because there was only the top of the 9th left, and I was still like, I don't know.
their bullpen's pretty. Yeah, it's.
Mariners did get a run, but I
Yeah,
thought
yeah.
I think they got this one in the bag.
A
Did
serious
you-
question though about the doubleheaders. Would the postponements that caused the doubleheaders have occurred if fans were coming to the ballpark? Because it's not just the umpires, the staff, the teams who are sort of inconveniencing themselves. Now you got 40,000 people who are on their way to the stadium and teams are walking off the field. I don't think that goes down anywhere.
Yeah, because you're not going to get an argument from the cutout cardboard.
You mean the people I'm seeing in the stands aren't real?
They're not real.
So they can afford
Sorry,
this
Scott.
virtue signaling of postponing games because there aren't
I've
any
been
fans in
duped.
attendance.
I've been duped.
You know, you're talking about relief pitchers, and this I have a theory on it, but I want to see what you guys know because you probably you know a little bit about the analytics and that kind of thing.
Oh, this is a Paul question.
Very little.
Well, it's not a Paul question. Okay, but this is how we're in the relief pitching era. So it's very similar like the NFL when they went from the running backs to the wide receivers. They had open offenses, and then the wide receivers became the guys to get in the draft, and the offenses were built around that. Now things are built around the bullpen. And I think it started when the Angels got into the World Series, and they didn't really have a very good starting staff. But they had Shields, they had Frankie Rodriguez, and they had Percival at the end of the rotation.
Yeah.
And they won a World Series by beating the Giants in 202. And a lot of teams after that saw that the way that they handled their bullpen, and I think it started a trend at that time, and we've seen it now to where these guys in the bullpen, you might have 5 relief pitchers in a game, and they all pitch 1 inning or less. Now they have to pitch the 3 batters. It got so bad they had to make a rule to force these guys.
But even though they have to pitch to 3 batters, I read this week that the length of games in 2020 is actually 2 minutes longer than the previous record of 2019.
Yeah.
3 hours and 9 minutes.
Saw that too.
And
Well-
it's all these pitchers coming into games.
Well,
back in the old days, we keep going to this, but
But-
you'd have 4-man rotations. You'd have guys going,
7 innings.
7, 8, 9 innings.
Yeah. But my theory has always been, Scott, that the more pitchers that
Leaving me
you
out?
use. What? the more pitchers you
The
use.
question was for Paul. Now it's a tag team.
No,
thing.
no, this is because you're a fan too, right? So, so when you bring in a pitcher, the manager knows that the guy that's going out, he knows what he's got. But the pitcher you bring in, you don't know what he's got. Now, you know what you expect him to get based on his talent and everything else. But the guy that leaves, you know what he had. You don't know what the guy coming in. So the more pitchers that you use in a game, I think your chances of winning goes down. Would you agree with that?
Well, it depends on the quality of your starting
Right,
staff.
right. But it only takes one guy when you're in a close game to implode. If you have 5, 6 pitchers, I've seen Socha use 8 pitchers, and Madden this year he had 9 pitchers used in the game. And so when you bring in a guy there, it's just the odds of somebody not having his stuff or whatever.
Kelly, it's
I
the
just
new
thought of-
normal in baseball.
Yeah, how about
baseball.
How about the team has to pay an additional amount of money to the league for each pitcher they bring in?
Yeah,
like,
and
I
it
want a new
goes-
card. I want
yeah,
a new card.
Yeah, so they get taxed for every pitcher they bring in.
Well, and like Paul said, I mean, the length of games is not, it's still 3 hours plus. It's like,
Yeah.
and just by coincidence, on this date in history, I've got a couple others, but to play off of that, in 1916, just a mere 104 years ago, the fastest game of professional baseball history was played. It was in Class D. Both teams had a train to catch. They played it in 31 minutes.
Oh my God!
Wow.
The fans demanded a refund, and the ownership said they would. But in pro baseball, I mean, that's pro baseball. In Major League Baseball, 1918, the Giants beat the Dodgers 1-0 in 51 minutes. I didn't say if they had a train to catch.
I didn't
Yeah.
know that Randy Jones and Greg Maddux were that old.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's 57 minutes. If you're watching, you want to, sometimes we do mistakes because we know people are out there looking for mistakes to correct. 57 minutes.
Comment section on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But let me go, since I'm on this nostalgia thing here. In 1972, Pete Rose and Roberto Clemente, both on the same date, tied the club records for hits for the Reds and the Pirates. Rose at 1881 and Clemente with 2970. Who did Clemente tie with the Pirates? Hall of Famer.
Dun, 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 dun,
Hall of Famer. His name was
Honus
Wagner.
Who
Ding,
was
ding, ding,
Honus
ding, 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 ding.
Wagner?
Who was Honus Wagner?
Wagner for
And
100.
Pete Rose, this would be, if you got this, he tied somebody for 1881 career hits with the Reds, Cincinnati Reds, and that person's name was that he tied.
Cornelius.
I think that was his nickname. Yeah, Veda Cornelius Pinson.
There he
Ah,
is.
Veda Pinson.
And
In 05, A-Rod becomes only the second right-handed batting Yankee to get 40 or more home runs. Who was the only other player right-handed to get 40 home runs or more with the Yanks?
let's see.
Hall of Famer.
Hall of Famer. Oh, let's see. Wait.
Where have you gone?
Joe DiMaggio.
Colton Joe.
And
Oh my God.
lastly, in 2015, here you go, Paul. Dodgers were no hit for the second time in 10 days by Jake Arrieta and Mike Fire. 10 days earlier, in 2015. I think they still won the division, though, didn't they? So
Thank you.
They
for
were
pointing
cheating
that
that one,
out.
aren't they?
well, they still won the division. You
Okay,
win every
well.
year. Look at what
Yeah.
Kelly and I are dealing with.
Yeah.
Okay, that's my trip back to Never Land.
Speaking of the Dodgers, this Mitch Moreland trade for San Diego does concern me a little bit. San Diego hits the ball really, really hard. The Dodgers are playing 789 ball against teams whose cities don't begin with San. So against the against the Giants and the Padres, they're 625, respectable. But against everybody else, they're doing great. Now the Padres add another hitter of magnitude.
Yeah.
And I don't ever look at these kind of stats, these analytics, but so thanks for the kudos. But I read today that the Padres actually have the hardest hitting club in the major leagues. Their exit velocity and percentage of barrels, which is when the barrel of the bat, the meat of the bat hits the ball, greater than any other team in baseball. And it's not even really that close. Dodgers are in third.
Well, maybe the Dodgers can play San Jose.
Do you?
Maybe that'll help.
So when they're going to sign a guy, you think they say, well, what percentage does he barrel up the bat?
Billy Beane would.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, you can't argue with his success. I mean, what he's done with Oakland, I'm not going to rip him. But you know the old saying that there's two things you can, positives, or two things that happen in life that you can't, is death and taxes. Well, I could add a third one. The Dodgers are 100% probability that they're going to be in the playoffs. And the Pirates are 0.5% that they will be in the playoffs. So that's 0.5%.
So are you saying that Lucas Giolito's no-hitter should get an asterisk because it was against the Pirates?
Yeah. No. People rip on the Pirates, but they have that's a tough city to win in for baseball.
The backdrop in the outfield
It's
is
the
tremendous,
best.
though.
It's the best. And they're already looking forward to Steelers, So they're just it's a rough thing there.
I mentioned Hugh Darvish, so he's got 5-6 wins.
Yeah.
And that's been big for the Cubs. The Cubs
Right.
didn't have a great week, but they didn't lose any ground really. But Hugh Darvish, that's been a big plus for them. We talked about Giolito, a couple things about him and a couple of his former high school teammates. 3 guys were on the Harvard Westlake and Studio City team in about 2012-13, and that was Giolito, Max Fried, who is tied, I think, with Beaver for earned run average in all of
He's
baseball.
at Atlanta, right?
Yeah, and he's at Atlanta. Max Fried was that's the right-handed, left-handed pitching on this high school team.
Holy cow.
And a guy that didn't pitch that year because he was only, I think, a sophomore, maybe a junior, was Jack Flaherty for the Cardinals.
Wow.
And I think he's been hurt, but he's 2-0. He pitched the other day, gave up a run in 5 innings. So can you imagine one high school team with Giolito, Fried, and Flaherty?
And where did they finish? I mean, were they any good?
I'm pretty sure they did because somebody said that it cost them about $500,000 to win a CIF championship because they were paying the coach $100,000 a year, and it took them 5 years to get there. Wow. So, and speaking of Mike Trout, it's seamless.
As you always
isn't it?
are.
It's just seamless. But this past week, Mike Trout's rookie baseball card with, I think it's Bowman, sold for $3,850,000.
Wow.
And I mean, a card's only 11 years old, and that broke the record of $3.1 million for Honus Wagner's 1909. So there's something about that 09 year. But and the thing is, it's autographed because there's a space on the card down at the bottom for an autograph. But again, I go back to a few episodes ago about guys who is that? Well, obviously you know it's Mike Trout because it's his card.
Yeah.
But if you just had it on a blank piece of paper, you go, who is that? So, but it's just phenomenal to me that sold for that amount of money for a card that's only. I mean, there's got to be the Honus Wagner card. What are there, like 2 or 3 other cards in existence that are in mint condition? But there's got to be more for Trout. But the other
But
thing,
is it because he signed it or what?
it can't be that. It's just because it's his rookie. I guess there's just the speculation of him continuing for 10 more years and to be the best ever. But still, the card's only 21 years old.
And who bought the card?
Vegas Dave. But real quick about some other things that were really high price. Bo Belinsky. Bo Belinsky was a big playboy. He had 1962. He was the deal in Los Angeles. His 5th start, he throws a no-hitter, and he is it. Walter Winchell latches onto him, the noted writer. He's dating every well-known actress around. Yeah. Unfortunately, he kept messing around and whatever, and the career didn't go anywhere. But years later, and he cleaned up his life, and he was going to church, and his pastor told me this story, so I know it's not the legend, it's the fact. So his pastor is talking one Sunday, just shortly after Mark McGwire's 70th home run ball had been surpassed by Bonds, hitting 73. And he's relating that to the Bible somehow about this guy purchases the 70 home run ball for $3 million.
Wow.
And now it's not worth nearly that because of bonds. And he said, I don't remember the man's name. But then he goes on with the passage and everything like that. So Bo, after the service, goes up to his pastor. And, he's a Christian now, but he's still Bo Belinsky from, the pool-playing hustler guy from back east. And he says, Pastor, I know that guy's name. And the pastor goes, oh, this is great because I can mention it in the second service. And he says, oh, yeah, what is it? He says, it's Schmuck. But the guy who bought it was Todd McFarlane. Todd McFarlane makes these guys here, these little figurines, more noted for the Spawn comic and TV series and movie, and so he bought it. He bought it for $3 million.
Wow.
And now it's worth anywhere from $250,000 to $400,000. He also bought Bond's 67, 68, 69th home runs, Sosa's 61st and 62nd. The adjusted total amount of buying all that, $5.8 million. He hard pressed to get $1 million today. But does Todd McFarlane care? No, because he's worth $300 million. He's that guy that didn't have to ask, how much is that? But the thing is, the guy who sold the ball, even more interesting, Phil Ozerski. This young guy catches the ball. After the game, the Cardinal representative comes up to him and says, hey, we'll give, if you give Mark the ball, we'll give you a signed jersey, glove, and bat. Oh, I'd like to meet Mark. Nah, Mark doesn't want to meet you. So 3 weeks later, or 4 months later, he sells it for $3.1 million. Wow. Now, if he was really smart, he would have taken the glove, bat, and jersey also and sold those for another $200,000. But because Mark McGwire wouldn't meet with him, he got over $3 million for the ball.
Wow.
Hey, Tech Team, let's package up episode 1 and sell it to this guy.
Yeah. There you go.
Get a couple of
Go
bucks.
ahead.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of run differential as a stat?
I don't know.
I think it's a stat.
Yeah,
I know you don't think much of it.
Well, if you're not a good team, you're going to be in the minus category, and I guess the Dodgers obviously are. But then here again, now the Angels score 16 runs.
Last
16
night.
to 3.
Right.
And all of a sudden they get bumped up 13. So is that? I don't know.
Aberrational games have to be tossed out. But I think after you do that, it's a pretty telling stat. And just look at the proof is in the pudding. The Dodgers, I think, they were around 80 coming into today.
Yeah, they're way ahead of anybody else.
No wonder why they're 100% projected to get in the playoffs.
Because what does it say?
Yeah.
I mean, the run differential tells you that the pitching is better than the opposition and that the hitting is better than the opposition. So for me, when I came, this stat is one I was using for years when I followed college football closely. And again, I would take out the 2 most aberrant scores during the season. And then I would look at 2 teams and compare them. And I would go by score differential. And I had an amazing success at picking games. So
Wow.
that's all I have.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention one thing.
What's that?
Sal Durante caught Roger Maris's 61st home run ball last day of the season in 61. And he gets to meet Roger Maris in the clubhouse because he wants to present the ball to Roger Maris. And Roger Maris says, no, Sal, you keep it. I got lots of baseballs. If you can sell it, make some money, more power to you. So he sells it for $5,000. He gets married to his sweetheart. Some people pay for a honeymoon. Just that simple. But that's 1961. Wow. But that's what Maris said. Nah, I got plenty of baseballs. You keep it, Sal. Wow. Get some money for it. Do that.
Wow.
So, Kelly?
Yeah, I was just, I was looking at some things here, and the Angels, they're, 4.7% possibility of getting in the playoffs. They got the best player in baseball.
I wouldn't take that bet.
Yeah, and I just think this, Artie Moreno is, he owns a team and he's putting out a loser there every year, 5 years in a row. And it's becoming a pattern. So I think that's something that he's going to have to fix. And that general manager Epler from it's going to
Fifth
be
year
gone.
of a 5-year contract.
Yeah, he's gone.
losing
Yeah, he's
season
gone,
every year.
and
I
they're-
don't think.
Yeah,
yeah.
and,
he might have gone to Oakland with La Stella.
But there might be hope
What's that?
because going into today, there were only 15 teams with a 500 or better record. 16 teams are going to the playoffs. So at least one sub 500 team will go. And I think looking at some of these teams that are on the cusp, I'm betting that there are probably 3 teams who are sub 500 who will go to the playoffs this year.
But the Angels won't be one of them. Boston won't be one of them.
I
Pittsburgh
tried.
won't.
I tried.
And the Nationals won't be one of them once Strasburg went down. So that's how hard it is.
Yeah.
to-
So you have 16 teams that are going to make it. That's never happened before. And if you can't make it, and you're in a big market like the Angels, it's you know what they say: you can't pick your parents, and you can't pick the owner of your team. And so that's where we are.
Karnak's back.
Karnak, take
Yeah,
it away.
I mentioned to me, the death of the Tonight Show, and they must have been listening because this past week they've had reruns. So they're worse at that show on reruns. So Johnny Carson used to do the Karnak thing for those of you under 50, I guess. And he'd have this, where he knew the answer, and then he would. This is the question. So the answer. This is a tribute to him. I plagiarized this. This is one of his things. You can look it up on YouTube. Sis, boom, ba. One of you guys could repeat that. And I would,
Sis, boom, ba.
there we go. Sis, boom, ba. Describe the sound made when a sheep explodes.
Hi-ho!
Oh, yo.
And lastly, this is mine. Don't panic. President Donald Trump.
President Donald Trump.
That's right, President Donald Trump. You can feel the tenseness in the room because we didn't record this. Who is Joe Biden running against for the presidency?
Hi-yo.
It's not, well, you laugh, but it's just kind of a, yeah, that's right. So it's kind of a historical thing for those of you
Because
watching.
at
18 years ago.
SPK Speak
Sports.
Sports, we're about facts.
Yeah. Hey, at least we didn't pitch Amway,
Yeah.
So I think that's a good thing.
That's
so
right.
for
Amway's pitching tomorrow
Kelly,
night.
for
SK
no,
Speaks.
no, you said it right. He interrupted.
Kelly,
For
Paul.
I'm Scott. Thanks for watching today. See ya.
say
Bye.
Bye.
You hit the ball out of the park. Speak Sports.